Okay, guitar modes. The first thing to know is where they come from. We're going to use the C major scale here, just on the keyboard so that you can see what's going on. No black keys involved in the key of C. So the major scale, as you may already know, is tone. So the first step or interval is tone, tone, semitone, which is the same as one fret on your guitar. Tone, 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 semitone. So starting, it's tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, or root, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, back to the root. And you can build a chord off each of the degrees of the scale. So the one chord is built, we'll just say for now it's every other key. Okay, that's a little easier to understand. It's a short video, so that's the one chord. The two chord is built off the second degree of the scale, which ends up being a minor chord, in this case D minor. We're in the key of C. And then the three chord is E minor. The four chord is F major, it's one of the primary chords. The five chord is G major. It's a primary chord as well. The chord built off the sixth degree of the scale is minor, A minor. Some call that the relative minor. And off the seventh degree, or leading tone, because it leads D, Do, back to the root, is diminished. That's a diminished chord. And usually what happens in music nowadays is we add the note another third, or skipping a key down as the bass note, and we end up with a four-part chord, dominant seventh. In this case, G7. And the important thing to know about a dominant seventh is that it contains this interval between this B and this F that's called a tritone, because it's three whole tones apart. And actually it's splitting the octave in half. And you hear the tension, it wants to resolve back to the one chord. Okay? So that's the basic structure of the chords, diatonic to the key of C, which means within the key of C. And then the way the modes work, I'm just playing the chord down here one octave, so that's a one chord, is that you start on C. This becomes the gravity, or the place where we're aiming for. And that's Ionian mode. And mode 2 would start on the D and end at the D. So you get this sound. Okay, and that's Dorian. Look at my webpage on this lesson and you'll see the formulas for the root, like the root, the second, in this case a flat third, Dorian, fourth, fifth, sixth, flat seventh, root. That's being compared to if it was D major scale. Mi sound, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but to make it Dorian from the key of C, you lower the third and the seventh. Okay, and back to the key of C again, and the modes in the key of C. E minor starts on an E, this is Phrygian. Mode 4, Lydian. Mode 5, Mixolydian. Mode 6 is the natural minor, some call it, or Aeolian. Mode 7, just going to reach around the camera here, is Locrian. It's not used very often, if at all, because usually people, as I said, just make that a part of the dominant seventh chord, or they'll use diminished scales. And back to the tonic. Okay, so those are the modes. And another, let's say, the reason, once you start understanding them, the reason they're important is, say if you're on an E minor chord in a song, and you know it's from the key of C, well that would mean you would use Phrygian mode. Notice there are a few minor modes. A minor means it's got the third is lowered or flat, but you'd have to use Phrygian if you're in the key of C. You wouldn't want to use, in the key of C, we'd go E minor, maybe A minor, then you go to Aeolian, Aeolian, then perhaps an F, which is the 4 chord, Lydian, then we'll go to a G chord, Mixolydian, key of C. I'll demonstrate. If I just played the C major scale over all those chords, it might work a little bit, but it'll sound weak right away. That doesn't sound very good. Then we went to an A minor. It's not too bad because it's A minor and C are relative major and minor. Then we get F. That's not bad, but not as nice as G. Okay, that's, you're gonna have to resolve that. You hear that? To there. So it sounds better to play Mixolydian. Alright, I hope that made sense as to what the modes are. It's just the major scale, using, depending on the chord in the key, using the root note of that chord as sort of a gravity center of the scale to aim for, and you get a different set of intervals or a different color for each mode. It's a good idea to learn how to sing them as well, like D Dorian, for example. Na 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 ba da 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 dee da 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 da, and say it even, the degrees, the intervals. Root 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, root. Okay? So, I hope that was helpful.